This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. Now, here's your host, Kevin Pruitt.
This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. My name is Kevin Pruitt. It's my honor to host this, and we have a great guest today. He's an entrepreneur focused on content co-creation and ecosystem-driven growth, building businesses that leverage collaboration with customers, partners, and communities to drive measurable impact. In 2020, he founded SpeakOn Podcast, a podcast booking service that scaled to high six figures in annual revenue and was acquired by Chapman Capital in December 22. In 24, he launched Demandee.co, a MarTech platform that helps B2B teams co-create impactful content with their ecosystem of partners, customers, and employees. Beyond business, he's passionate about long-distance running and weight training, balancing the demands of entrepreneurship with endurance sports, obviously a classic underachiever. As somebody managing type 1 diabetes, he applies the same principles of discipline, adaptation, and resilience to both his personal and professional life, deciding to take challenges head on rather than be limited by them. I want you to join me in welcoming my friend, Jakub Zajicek, to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. Jakub, it's good to have you, buddy.
Awesome to be here, Kevin. Super excited to talk with you. And thanks a lot for actually pronouncing my last name correctly. Most people don't get it right.
I'm sorry. It's the Americanized version of the right pronunciation. So you're being very gracious. But it's funny because I even did a Calendly to set the meeting up and I spelled his last name wrong. And he's a friend of mine. So what a great start here. But, you've been gracious to me over many, many, many months here. But man, it's so hard to capture, kind of the essence of who you are and just the bio. So, man, round it out a little bit. What are some things that we did not mention in that? I mean, hey, a recent major life event in the last year, I remember you had as well, right?
Oh yeah. Just got married in October. I hope it was October and not November. Hopefully she don't hear me in the next room.
That's right.
She doesn't hear me in the next room. So yeah, I got married, and yeah, building a new business. A lot of stuff is happening. Exciting times for sure.
So I want to talk about just the podcast guesting service that you started and so, I mean, I'm familiar with that because I'm a podcaster. So I even received a lot of, inbound, requests to have guests on. But I mean, to take something like that seems like such a, kind of a small margin service and grow it to the size that you grew. I mean, man, that to me is a pretty amazing journey that you walked through. What were some of the like lessons you learned early in that said this is how we can really market this and get this out to the masses?
Well, I think one thing is marketing, but the second is how do we keep how do we actually can deliver the service predictably. So I will start with the second one because it touches the thing that you talked about, which is margins. Which since the very beginning, everything that we've done, we documented into SOPs. It's funny because SOP is also acronym for the company name, which is SpeakOn Podcast. So if I talk about SOPs, don't get confused. It's going to be both. So we were documenting everything. So then when somebody joined, obviously we could quickly train them on how to find the right podcasts, and how to extract the right ideas from people, and create the topics, create the presentation, write the email guest pitches to podcast hosts like yourself, and then eventually book the podcast interview, handle all the back and forths. So it was basically a systematized business. We made a decision that we won't be expanding too much into like other parts of podcasting, such as podcast production or podcast advertising, because the market for podcast guesting, when we started, it was quite small. There weren't many companies and there were many podcasts, and it was in 2020, so during COVID. So a lot of people were searching for new ways to reach new people from home, right? So podcasting was experiencing that big boom. So that from our side was quite good timing that we decided to enter this market early before it started really growing. Right now, there are just way more competitors. So yeah, it was timing, and it was the SOPs. And then in terms of marketing and how we got our first customers, man, it was a lot of manual outreach, hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, exactly.
Just reaching out to people, on LinkedIn mostly. In 2020, it wasn't that strict as it is right now. And I was just reaching out to 50, 100 people a day, personalizing the message. It led to the first wins. And then it was referrals, obviously something from podcast guesting that we've done ourselves, content on LinkedIn, but still very sales driven. So reaching out to people directly.
I was there a learning curve? Did you find that you had to, I guess, show people the value of actually going on podcast before? I mean, or did they just get it from the beginning?
Well, I think most people still don't get the value of going on podcast. Like, you really need to be in a good frame of mind to say, okay, I will appear on a podcast because I know that in a grand scheme of things, it will move the needle the right way. I'm okay with not being able to measure exactly the impact of this one podcast appearance, but this piece of content will live forever. If people will Google me, they might find this podcast interview and it will influence their decision.
Yeah.
So it actually reflects quite well how buyers buy today, right? It doesn't fit into exact like linear funnel. You enter podcast, then this happens. But podcast can be one of these touch points that will actually move the needle when somebody is buying. So there are not so many companies who really understand it. And the companies that do, you actually know about them because they are the ones who are focusing on brand a lot because they know that the messaging and their points of views that they are pushing into the market matter, and they want to maximize the distribution and podcasting. And podcasts, either running your own or appearing on others, is one of the efficient ways to do so.
I mean, I love this. And it is such a great segue into kind of where I wanted to head, right now with what you just said about, the brands that really get it kind of understand that this is like almost a cyclical, process and not linear. So talk about like the transition from going from like SpeakOn Podcast, you guys exited and kind of thought, okay, now what? You're like, we got some skills with the things we learned, even in marketing SpeakOn Podcasts. And now we're thinking, okay, what's the gap in the market that we're trying to achieve now? So kind of walk through that transition about how you discovered, what your next thing was.
It wasn't like an overnight thing. I would say in general, like 2023 was a year of like tasting many different things and actually being in the trenches of building SpeakOn Podcast and really just not doing anything else and being very involved in a day-to-day and running the business. Then I needed to like zoom out a little bit to figure out like what is the next thing that I want to build. I was a little burned out from the entire space, not like podcasting space, but in general, like a B2B marketing space. So I was experimenting with a lot of different things, so I launched a community on Facebook. This community was for people with diabetes, with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. I grew it to like 3.3 thousand members. I failed to monetize this thing. So everybody wanted to talk about diabetes, but when I really structured good programs, I run webinars, people just weren't converting. And it actually made me click that, hey, I spent last few years getting a lot of experience in this B2B space, building my network there. And now I'm actually launching a business, the diabetes community that is not leveraging any of that. Right. So I was pretty much starting from scratch where nothing that I've done in the past mattered. Right. So I was thinking like, what am I doing? Right. There are easier ways to build a business where I can actually leverage my existing community.
Actually, give me a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. I went back to what I was doing pretty much since the first business that I started, and it was always about connecting people and bringing people together, So the very first thing that I launched when I was in university, it was a skill sharing community. I was connecting people who can learn from each other. Then I launched a little business that we were connecting buyers and sellers of the stuff that people no longer need. Then, SpeakOn Podcasts, which was about connecting guests, potential guests, with podcast hosts. And then, I try to take this essence of like connecting people, creating content with other people. And I essentially decided to create an offer that I will help other people to take their network, the people in their network, to go to markets together, to create content together instead of creating on their own. There are companies that have a lot of employees, partners, investors, customers that are ready to speak on the topics that you want to be known for. If you just ask them to create with you and you position it right, they understand what's in it for them. You can easily find 10, 15, 20 people who will say yes. And then overnight, it's going from just me creating content to 20 people creating content with you. You're tapping into these 20 different audiences and you're maximizing your reach and you're actually changing the messenger of your message. So it's not you talking about yourself, it's other people talking about you and your brand and your beliefs and points of views.
So, I mean, I love that. I'm flying the plane at about 30,000 feet right now, and I need to get a little closer to the ground. So I'm gonna bring it down to like 10,000 feet. So talk through the mechanics of that model. So I understand it's kind of a joint venture. We're going to, partner together and create content, but tell me how you sold the benefits, in both directions. How do you, what was your message to me as I have my network. I can talk about whatever your thing is. What was the benefit to me out of that?
Let me flip that question. Why do people accept your podcast invitation?
Is that a question to me?
When you decide to invite them on a podcast, right? Like how does it make them feel? I think it's
because I'm so good looking. I think I have it's my good looks and youth. I think that sells them. So, I mean, obviously they see that there's an output value that says, you know what, I just get another chance to kind of share my story and hopefully, maybe it's going to generate leads, maybe it's going to build my brand, maybe it's going to grow my authority in the space, all these things. So, yeah.
So if you would separate it, there are basically two parts of why, or two categories why people say yes to create content with you. First category are the things that you've mentioned. It can help me. It can help my brand. It can generate some leads. I will be seen next to other industry leaders who also said yes to creating content together. But the second thing is more on a personal level. It really feels good when somebody reaches out to you and they say, hey, we actually want to feature you in this upcoming content series that we are preparing because you are one of the experts that we recognize in this space. And we would love if you would be one of 15 people who will contribute. You will get this, and this. It only takes 20 minutes of your time. I mean, when you invited me on a podcast, I felt good, and yes, I was aware of the benefits that I will get by appearing on this podcast, but I also accepted because I felt good that you asked. So those are really two main categories of reasons why people say yes to content co-creation.
So, okay, little closer to the runway here. Let's go down to 5,000 feet. So you said you'll get this, and this. Give me some tangible, tangible benefits that you're going to, when you're pitching them. And I don't want to get into your, the IP of your business or whatever, but like if I understand it feels good. I understand it's a chance for me to share. But if I get tangible benefits, you saying like we're going to 50-50 rev share anything we make on a webinar, you're going to say I'll give you 10% of any uptick on sales. What are some of the tangible ways that you are selling this as well?
So currently the artifacts that people are getting from participating in demanding campaigns are fully edited videos. And those are short form vertical videos that they will then post on their profiles as a personal brand content. Plus we will also write the post copywriting for them. So all they really have to do is click the link, because we build an entire tech infrastructure around this. We built our tool that allows, recording videos. That makes it really easy. So all you have to do is, log in with your LinkedIn account into our platform, answer the questions that are set by the campaign running by the company running the campaign, and that's pretty much it. You spend in this virtual content studio like 15 to 20 minutes, and then you can almost like forget about it, and then you only receive a notification, hey, your content is ready, review it here, and you can post it right away from within the platform. So we received a lot of feedback from people and from creators who went through this experience, that this was the easiest way I created content in my life. And as a result, they are actually asking us, hey, can you help me create content personally? So now we are actually experimenting with a personal brand offering as well. And it's working really well too.
So where's the connection? And forgive my layperson's ignorance here. Where's the connection to another party? So if I'm not connecting to Demand-E. I mean, Demand-E is kind of the connection point. So where is the other party coming into that equation? If I'm just generating the content, for my brand or whatever, where's the other party stepping into the picture?
Right. So when you run a campaign, let's say that you are let's say that you represent HubSpot partner program, right? So you run a HubSpot partner program. And then you have like hundreds of agencies who are part of this partner program. So HubSpot would say, hey, we have these agencies who are part of this program. They are selling our services. They are implementing HubSpot for their customers. But we would like to do something more. We would like to work with them to help them build their brands. So then as a result, it actually leads to more business for us as well. Because if their agency partners win, then, the HubSpot will win as well. So in this example, HubSpot would be our customer, and they would say, we want to activate all our agency partners. And then we would help HubSpot to come up with the right angle, messaging, and so on. And then, basically the invitations are going from HubSpot to these agency partners, and agency partners are saying, yeah, this sounds amazing for the reasons that we've mentioned. And then they are co-creating essentially with HubSpot as a part of their campaign.
That is, it's almost an unlimited opportunity to partner, though. I mean, it's not just one-to-one. I mean, it could be one-to-many as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's totally free for the partner, right? So you're getting invited as a partner. And if the company running the campaign wants to do it continuously, we now have customers who are essentially paying for personal brand content for all their partners. So their partners are posting mostly demand generated content.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked about when you started your podcast booking service. So if you took the time to kind of explain that to me, I understand the benefits now, and I'm probably about 75% there of understanding about how the whole process works. But what's the learning curve? I mean, I know that it's not a ubiquitous approach, because there's not thousands of companies out there with this same kind of specific model that they're trying to do. I mean, it's a pretty unique approach in this space. But what's been the learning curve? I mean, when you talk to potential clients about this, does the light come on immediately, or are you thinking, hey, we got like 3 meetings before I can see the light physically come on, in the chat, and then they get it, and once they do get it, is it like why, that's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to do this.
Yeah, because it's such a new thing for most companies. It takes a while to really get the point across. So there's a benefit of actually talking to people who kind of get the idea already. Yep. They are not like completely, they've never been exposed to idea of leveraging their ecosystem. So, people in partnerships, they understand, like in the partnership positions, they understand the value of activating people in their partner ecosystem. right? So they are on the lookout for strategies on how they can do it. Currently, it's mostly webinars, right? So they have a bunch of partners and they say, okay, let's do a webinar, which will lead to some opportunities where we can talk about our joint venture, JVP, joint venture proposition. And then it will, we'll promote it together and so on. So this is like an alternative approach that you can do it actually way faster pace, at lower cost, and with lower commitment, from every party, because it's just so simple to execute this model.
And if I want to partner with somebody on this, I'm inviting them into this kind of the same ecosystem, and they're jumping on to create their 10 minutes of content or whatever it is at the same. I mean, and we're both doing our own particular content. And how do you put those two pieces together? How do they know? How do we synergize the two sides of the equation, like what I'm saying versus what the person in my network is saying? How do we make those two fit together?
Yeah, so that's the strategy that goes into setting up the campaign, right? So what is the point of view that we want to push in this in this campaign, and that will then set the questions that these individual collaborators will be asked. So let's again take your podcast as an example. You've interviewed how many people?
350.
350, right? So if we would just
351 today. No,
yeah. If we would just take the last 6 months, we could find definitely, let's say 15, 20 people you've already built your relationship with. And if you have a good ask, they would say yes to creating content with you, right? So you could say something like that, hey, I've talked to 350 people and almost no one from marketing space is talking about this. And I think it's a wide space that I think that, some people I interviewed could really share their 2 cents on. And I would like to create this content to, give you some spotlight, and also promote my podcast a little bit, so you can drive traffic back to the episode that you've recorded with me. Right. So you could take the people that you've already interviewed and run a campaign with them like this. But the thought leadership, like what you want to talk about, should really come from you. And the difficult part is making it interesting for them as well, right? So they cannot really just be mouthpieces for your podcast. Yep. It needs to be aligned with your point of view, with their point of view, so they feel good about sharing their 2 cents on this topic, and then ultimately sharing it on their individual profiles. I mean,
it's not just an ad campaign. I mean, they're like subject matter experts,
Exactly.
They're not brand ambassadors, so to speak, in that role. But what's been the reception so far? I mean, I know it's early days, but what does it look like? That upward right hockey stick that, you're like already shopping for beach houses and.
Well, I've been shopping for beach houses for a long time. It's part of like a visualization thing, but no, I mean, yeah, it's actually going really well, so obviously we're early stage. So, there are always the things that we are like still figuring out, but we're now finding our sweet spot, like the companies that get to value the quickest, that see like they quickly can benefit from this service, who are not struggling, get collaborators in. So yeah, we are figuring it out as we go. And one of the big lessons since building previous businesses is that, especially in these early stages, it's like incredibly important to not be too romantic about that original idea, because very often it's just wrong. And you find out if after you have a lot of conversations, after you sell something and maybe it didn't, you weren't happy exactly how it felt and how it went, so on and so on. So like you're really learning in these like early stages, and it's totally fine to sometimes like change the direction, tweak a little bit. So yeah, not being romantic, but also like staying on track. So that's the balance.
So yeah, you're so good. You're answering questions before I even ask them. So I was going to ask you, like, what's been the biggest pivot from the inception of the idea to today? What's the one thing that you kind of, hey, you and your co-partner, you do, hey, we assumed this and we were dead wrong?
That's a good question. Well, I think we
Or maybe not
like
dead
we
wrong. That's a little ugly. Maybe we were slightly off 1 degree off there.
well, I think that what's important is to we assume that most people will understand this motion. So we thought that if we talk to marketers, they will just get it. But there was like a big gap in understanding of what we do and how they do things. So we needed to get closer to someone who already understands this motion. So we positioned into like an ecosystem-led growth marketing platform. There are already a lot of companies who are in this space. The biggest company in this space who actually coined this term is Crossbeam, which allows you to map networks, and find opportunities. So we are now in this space where these people who are already understand the ecosystem-led growth, they don't need so much explanation about what we do. So to recap, it would be getting closer to people who have higher understanding of the concept and not trying to sell to pretty much everyone. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the ultimate like niching down, like figuring out who your ideal client, your ideal customer profile, is. But you're a big SOP guy. So is there an SOP that you can build that says, okay, here are the 7 steps that we see over and over again in kind of the education cycle or the learning curve that people go through to go from, hey, the guy that like top of funnel that, hey, initially aware to, hey, they're activated, they're bought in, type thing. Are there kind of consistent, maybe repeatable, universal steps that you see people go through on that learning curve that you can say, hey, it's just a matter, it's really a numbers play. We literally just have to do the things that we see. Here's the 5 steps that they go through. So we just have to address those 5 steps instead of in lieu of, or I guess not just saying we're going to niche down so much that we're only going to get people who are on step number 4. That's all who we're going to talk to because they're kind of harder to find, almost. So what's the balance maybe between those 2 approaches in your opinion?
I'm not sure if I will fully answer the question, but if there are a couple of things that people must understand before they let's say move forward. First, they need to understand and believe in this model. Once we get across the line, then the next obvious question is who we should create with, and it is an eye-opening moment for a lot of companies that think that no one would create with them, but there are tons of people who would. By minimum, you have employees and you have a leadership team who should be active on LinkedIn, and who should be sharing thought leadership on their profiles, right? It just helps the entire company. And then it's about how do we get them motivated to do so? How do we invite them? And how do we get them talk about things that are relevant for them and for us for the campaign?
Right.
So there are a couple of bottlenecks. The first bottleneck is getting people in, and that starts with the right strategy, with the right messaging, and choosing the right collaborators. Second is getting them to record content. So that comes down to how easy you make it for them. The Mandy makes this really easy, but there are a lot of people who never, let's say, recorded video before. So there are a lot of unknown questions or unknowns in general about how to do it right. So they don't know how to set up their camera. They don't know if it's okay if they do some ums when they speak. So there's a gap between where they are and basically recording the first video. So that's something that we need to address as well. We do it usually through workshop or some like async videos that we send. And last thing is, and that's happening in 99% of cases, is that people must post the content. And the premise there is that the content must be high quality. And then people don't feel bad about posting it because after all, it's well edited. It's them sharing their genuine points of views on the topics that are relevant to them as well.
Isn't it amazing that often the hurdle is not, I don't know how to do it, or I don't have time to do it, or something got in the way. It's just the fact that I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Whatever step it is, I just didn't do it. I activated that membership. I paid for the service. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing if I think that is the golden goose right there. If you can crack the motivation or the I guess just initiating their next step, their response, activating that next motion that they have to take. That I think you would revolutionize marketing tomorrow, because so often that it's just not, I just didn't do it. Just
Yeah.
simply didn't do it. But
there's a expectation difference, right? Like how hard it is, because if people who've never recorded video are tasked with recording video, they will think it's a massive task, because they see the best videos being posted on LinkedIn. So they're comparing themselves to people who are on mile 100 while they are still sitting on a couch. So it's really important to set the right expectations with all collaborators that, hey, it's not that scary as you think. Hey, the platform makes it really easy to submit video, and we are here. We can jump on calls. I will do one-on-one walkthrough and coach you on how to do it. So we are also doing like a lot of these unscalable things, talking one-on-one with collaborators, helping them to just, get it done.
Yeah, that's it. You're gonna wear a T-shirt that just says "Get it done." It's the new Nike slogan. But as you probably know, we have a lot of marketing agency owners and management teams that listen to this podcast, and this seems like a really great fit for their strategy as well, for their clients. So if you want to talk specifically to it, like a marketing agency owner, like what is the play? What's the best approach? If I'm running my own marketing agency, I've got some clients, we need to generate content type thing. What is the best, outcome? Can it be white labeled, or is this a situation where, it's just a kind of a off the shelf product that they're going to use to achieve their goal? I don't want to lead you too much on this. I mean, I want you to let you answer as you see fit. But if you're speaking directly to agency owners, what would you say?
I would say that most agency owners are not that active on LinkedIn as they should be. Maybe they have a founder or CEO who's really active on LinkedIn, but still there are many people who are experts on what they do inside their agency. And if, as an agency owner, you don't give them the tools and space and time and support to share their genius online, you're missing out. So I think that one, takeaway to take from this podcast episode is think about the people that you already have in the business, and think about how they should or how they could be creating content to talk about things that are doing for the customers that they are good at. Maybe you work with copywriters. This copywriter should be known as a great copywriter who works for this agency, because it will lead to inbound. We have companies who are posting with their employees. These employees before never posted, or maybe just reposted company updates, and now they're getting inbound messages from net new people who were in their network but never reached out, because they simply didn't see anything good from this person. So start small. You can activate just a couple of people in your agency. Start small, but you should definitely be more visible on LinkedIn. And don't feel bad about because there's a stigma that, okay, if I will help our employees too much, they will leave me. But you want to support them. You want them to win. You want them to be successful and actually share their know-how and expertise on LinkedIn, and just approach this from an abundance place. Because if they are known, if they have reach, then your company will grow as well.
See, you actually backed it up a degree. I mean, I was thinking more in terms of their clients. Like, how did they get their clients to use this tool versus an internal play? I didn't even think about that angle. I love the fact that you touched on that. But no, go to the next degree out that says, okay, if I want to help my clients, as an agency, how does Demand help them create content?
That's usually the second step. We start when we work with an agency, it's like internal thing. They want to test it out, how it works, how it feels. And then they can go to their client and say, hey, we are already doing it for 4 months, and I think that you should do it too. So if you work with B2B companies, and B2B specifically is because we are now mostly focused on LinkedIn. And the thought leadership and the strategy that goes to setting up the campaign, it's really more suitable for B2B. So if you work with any company from B2B that have audience on LinkedIn, and this company is not doing much stuff on LinkedIn, then you can definitely reach out, make a connection, and then we can participate on running this campaign together and activate this company's network and make them known on LinkedIn.
Man, I see an affiliate play in the future between marketing agencies and demand, or a JV partnership that's between that service and what they're trying to provide. So anything else that we just haven't touched on you'd like to just wrap us up with today before we head into our lightning round?
There's a lightning round?
There's a lightning round, brother. Oh. We're going to you got to be ready. Just first thing that comes to mind. And we are headed there.
I would just say don't sleep on it. There are companies who are absolutely winning on LinkedIn. And, if you reach out, we can strategize what it could look like for you. But we remove most of the heavy lifting. So there's almost no excuse not to do it. If you have 20 minutes a month, you can easily activate your network or create on your own.
Well, man, I appreciate you touching on a kind of a unique approach in the marketing space for sure. And, we'll cycle back here in just a second after I dazzle you with our lightning round that's coming up right now. I'm going to ask you, you're going to say these are like crazy disparate questions that you're like, why are you asking these? But there's a method to our madness here. So
okay.
Just immediate first response, whatever comes to mind, short, quick answers. So number one, did you get along with your parents growing up?
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Any pets?
Yes.
What?
My parents still have a dog. I don't have a dog here, but yeah, when I go there, I still consider it my pet.
Okay. Kids?
No.
What time on a work day do you wake up in the morning, typically?
7 a.m.
What time do you go to bed normally on a work day?
11:30.
What's your ideal vacation spot? Anywhere in the world, money not an object.
By the beach, really, really good resort. And I can do a lot of adventure stuff, but always get back to that really, really good resort.
How does faith affect the way you do business?
Not at all.
If you were king for a day in the marketing space, what is one thing you would change?
If I would be what?
King for a day.
King for a day. I think the top of mind is really like helping people understand the untapped value they already have within their company and within their ecosystem.
One thing that I didn't ask you earlier that I want you to touch on right before we before we stop our chat here, but we did not talk. It didn't even touch on kind of the AI aspect of this work. Is there any AI integration that you see in the future with Demandee? How does AI even have any overlap with what you're trying to do?
Oh yeah, we actually do. We actually do a lot with AI. So we develop the entire prompts and systems on how to create the post copywriting that actually performs better than what most people would write. So that's just one application of AI, but there are a lot of different things that we are now putting in place.
Well, it is going to be interesting to see because it is such early days with the platform you're building. It's going to be really interesting to see how it just morphs over time, and then the ways you see, small pivots that we're taking to really kind of meet the niche that you're trying to target here. But man, I just really appreciate you just taking the time to share your story today. Thank you for helping agency owners grow and scale their business. And man, we're looking forward to the 2.0 version in a couple of years to see what this looks like. Jakub, thanks again for joining us. In AI time, that's like a century. That's right, man. Thank you so much for taking time today and just sharing your story on the Marketing Umbrella podcast. Truly appreciated.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. To learn more, go to umbrellaus.com.